afternoon, and welcome to Business as Usual. I'm Audrey Russo, and I'm President and CEO of the Pittsburgh Technology Council, and I'm joined today by our Vice President of Visibility and co-host of our radio show, Jonathan Kirsten.
I'm starving, let's eat.
So a few things about today's call. We get a lot of support, and the support includes Huntington Bank, and they've been very active always, but in particular over these last few weeks, because they are the largest SBA lender here in Southwestern Pennsylvania. I also want to thank the team at AT&T for their support for our public policy series, and more importantly, they support the broader community across this pandemic. So last week, AT&T announced a $5.5 million donation to Feeding America, which in part benefits the Greater Pittsburgh Community Food Bank and 412 Food Rescue. So as a quick programming note, with schedules being fluid, we have made a few changes to this week's lineup. First, Senator Casey was originally planning to join us today, but asked to be rescheduled for later in the week. We thought we had Teletracking, who would be taking the slot today, but their management team was summoned at the last minute, and they will be joining us next week as well. And here's the lineup for the rest of this week. On Thursday, we will be hosting Leslie Davis, Senior Vice President and Chief Operating Officer for UPMC Health Services. And we're very much looking forward to that program. And on Friday, we have a jam-packed special 1-hour edition of this call. First, we will be joined by Dr. Rachel Levine, Secretary of Health for the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, who will be joined on her segment with Secretary of the Department of Community and Economic Development, Dennis Davin. And then at 12:30 that same day, we will be joined by U.S. Senator Bob Casey, who will update on the current plans to jumpstart the U.S. economy. As you can tell, we've been very busy. And tomorrow, we are having State Representatives Jake Wheatley and Austin Davis joining us. So that's our packed lineup for now. We already are starting to get pretty busy for next week, so thank you for joining us. So a couple of things about the technology. At the bottom of your screen, you noted that we muted your microphones. It's only because we're trying to eliminate the background sounds that many of us have in our own homes, and we want to ensure that our guests can be heard clearly. So we want this show to be interactive. So take note of the chat box at the bottom. If you have questions for our guests, just type in the question with your name and company. If you joined this call in the past, you know that I usually ask that the chat session not be used for advertising your product. Today and today only, we're going to suspend that rule for one purpose: to allow you to share the names of local restaurants that are still offering amazing services during the pandemic. And throughout the call, in addition to asking questions, feel free to promote your favorite restaurants. Just tell us who they are. So with that, I'd like to bring on today's guest. First, we are joined by John Longstreet, who serves as the President and CEO of the Pennsylvania Restaurant and Lodging Association, which represents some of the industries and employees who have been most impacted by the crisis. Joining him is Adam Golomb, who is the Chief Marketing Officer for Primanti Bros. So welcome to both of them. So I'm going to start by asking a question to John. John, thank you for joining us. And here's the question. Can you tell us about the Pennsylvania Restaurant and Lodging Association and your members? And tell us a bit about Carryout PA and how your members are managing through the crisis.
You bet. Thank you very much, Audrey, and thanks for having us today. You're right. Everyone has been impacted by this crisis, but maybe none so severely as the restaurant and lodging industry. And we represent both. We represent restaurants and hotels in the state of Pennsylvania, and we represent travel and tourism. So there are about 26,000 restaurants, 1,500 hotels, 50 destination marketing organizations like Visit Pittsburgh. And then there is about another 75 attractions, and we are one of 6 associations in the country that represent the entire industry. We are a member organization, but as soon as this crisis hit, we suspended collection of dues, and we invited the entire industry to partake of the member services, and many have. We've probably had another couple of thousand, 3,000 folks that are getting our daily updates. The reason being that the first thing that they needed was information. They needed to understand what's going on, how to react, how to comply with orders, so on and so forth. So we became the information source for the industry with, as I said, a daily update and a weekly webinar, and then throughout the day, many times other flashes. In addition to that, we recognized that there was going to need to be help for the team members in these restaurants and hotels. As of yesterday in the restaurant business, a survey that was completed last Thursday shows that in Pennsylvania, 96% of the restaurants have laid off employees. And of those that have laid off employees, they've laid off 85% of their employees. So you can imagine the 580,000 restaurant employees in the state, there's a lot of people out of work right now. So our first goal was to help to figure out a way to get help to those furloughed or laid off workers. And then the second goal was to try to find ways to generate cash flow for the businesses so that they're going to be around when the employees come back. Also in the same survey in the state of Pennsylvania, almost 10 per, I'm sorry, it would be a 10% of the restaurants announced that they may not be able to reopen. About half of them said they already know they're not going to reopen, and the other half said they would probably not reopen. So you know how many restaurants that is based on the count that I gave you. So it's a really difficult time for the industry right now. So how are the members holding up? And this kind of gets into your question about carryout PA. Of the restaurants in the state, 50% of them are totally closed, and the other 50% are open for takeout or delivery or curbside pickup. And many organizations that had never done that before, many restaurants, are now doing it. And the first and foremost reason is that the restaurant's a huge part of the food supply. Over 50% of the money that's spent on food in our country is spent away from home. So that's in restaurants. So you can imagine if, and you saw what happened to grocery stores when this hit, can you imagine if the restaurants weren't there, still providing takeout, what would have happened to the food supply? Most casual dining restaurants that did takeout before this, let's say one that did a lot of takeout, might have been doing 10% of their sales of takeout. So those that are now obviously are all closed for dining now, and the takeout business has picked up for sure. But restaurants operate on a 5 to 7% profit margin, so takeout alone is not going to sustain the business. It is, however, helping the people to get food. And if you've been sheltering in place for a month like I have now, you know that you absolutely crave that time that you can go get pickup or delivery from a place like Primanti Bros, because you get so tired of your own home cooking. And many people don't know how to cook. So we also launched in one of the many initiatives that have taken place since this crisis hit. We launched Carryout PA. And this is a website that allows restaurants to put their menus and all of their information up in one easy to find place. And then for consumers to be able to go to that and find out the restaurants in their area that are on Carryout PA. One of the very first ones that signed up, Adam, thank you, was Primanti Bros, signed all their restaurants up. And yesterday, when the governor, in one of his many announcements, Wolf administration encouraged residents to support local restaurants with carryoutpa.com. So we've got the Department of Community and Economic Development through the tourism offices promoting it. I was on KDKA last week, they're helping us promote it. And many other radio stations and news medias are helping to get the word out. Because when you ask what can you do to help restaurants today, it's absolutely order either delivery or pickup. And in addition to helping restaurants, it's going to make your day. We had a delivery last week, or pickup last week. And by the way, Adam, I told Mike Mitchum that my next one is from Primanti's, your new store over at Mechanicsburg. So I haven't gotten there yet, but I'm going to get there. But we had it last week, and it was like the best thing we'd ever eaten because it's been so long since we had restaurant food. So that's the first thing that you can do. And then to help restaurants right now. So I'll be quiet for a minute and respond to whatever comes next, Audrey.
No, you don't need to be quiet. We need to hear from you. Those statistics are quite profound. So are there questions? We have some great lists, Jonathan, going on. There must be, people are shouting out all their favorite restaurants.
Audrey, I'm so hungry right now looking at all these choices. It's like I forgot how many great places there are to eat, and they're all making me hungry. What we're going to do is we're going to aggregate a whole bunch of these and stick them on our COVID resource page so people can kind of see when all these restaurants are open to deliver, because some have special hours and everything like that. I thought that was just a great idea.
That's
As far
great.
as that is. Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
just really want to tell everybody out there, I think it's just so important. I've been trying to twice a week order food from someplace, pick it up and tip big, and really show your support for it, because we just forget how important these restaurants are to our communities and the way we live, and the fact that I can't stand my home cooking anymore either. So
Well, restaurants have been, a critical linchpin in terms of the new economy and the tech economy. So we care about all of this. We've been adding jobs faster than many of us have. So this hits us really hard. I want to switch over to Adam really quick. Adam is the CMO, Chief Marketing Officer of Primanti Bros, and an old friend to the Tech Council. And can we see Adam's face? Adam, you there?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay, so can you talk about how you've continued to operate during the crisis and how your business and the team is holding up?
Yeah, so I think what John said is that, I think it hit us hard and fast, really hit the restaurant industry hard. We operate 40 restaurants in 6 states, so managing in all those states was a challenge initially. We made some really tough decisions early on, furloughed, as we like to say, because we hope to bring everybody back, over 1,500 people, and immediately switched our restaurants to takeout only operations. I think we were very fortunate from the fact we had made a major investment over the last year in the technology space around takeout, and we're able to flip the switch pretty fast and be up and running with takeout only operations that also had delivery and third-party delivery. And we've seen great responses. We've had sales have continued to grow week over week. The stimulus check was a really boost to the industry. Once those started hitting people's bank accounts, we saw a spike, so did the whole industry. And we've been able to hire people back. I think that's been a real testament to it. We're up to about 400 employees we've have now on the payroll, and adding people every week, and waiting for the ability to reopen and get people back and working.
So, Jonathan, are there questions on here? I see there's lots of activity on the
it's
chat.
going so fast.
that we
So
can ask?
yeah, let's bring Jason Wolf on. He's got a really great question about Uber Eats and all the different delivery services.
Okay.
Jason, are you there?
Is he there? Can you unmute him?
Yeah.
Okay.
There he is.
Hey, Adam, how you doing?
Good. How you doing, Jason?
Good. Hey, I was curious about the delivery services. Are those delivery services, are those essential? And also, I was curious if they're doing any price gouging right now, because a lot of folks are using them. Do you know anything about it?
Yeah, I mean, I think from the first question, from an essential standpoint, to us, we look at it as from 2 standpoints. So one is we're in all of the marketplaces. Our belief is we should be where our fans want us to be. So that's the first thing. If people are out on Uber Eats or Grubhub or DoorDash, we want to be there. And, we look at it as a marketing vehicle. But from a delivery standpoint, DoorDash is our partner. They operate our delivery service. So if you go to PrimantiBros.com and order delivery, DoorDash is our partner. And allows us to cost effectively do delivery much better than we would running delivery vehicles. From a price gouging standpoint, we haven't seen that. We've actually seen many people invest with us. DoorDash immediately stepped up to the table and gave us a sizable investment to help us grow the business. And then I'm seeing people like Grubhub and Uber Eats helping independent restaurants with cutting of commissions. We also partner with a platform called Easy Cater. And you would think, the catering business went to nothing overnight. We've actually had some catering orders, but Easy Cater stepped up and offered 0 commission until the coronavirus crisis is over. So we've been really fortunate. Some of our partners have stepped up and helped us through this and get through this for many restaurant chains.
If I may add to that, too, Adam, I agree with you 100%. And what it really allowed restaurants statewide to be able to do was to be able to quickly get into the delivery business that had never been in it before. And there's a regional chain of restaurants similar to Adam's restaurants, only in Eastern Pennsylvania, who had never done delivery, and now they're on the DoorDash platform and a couple of others. and they've been able to increase their sales from about 10% of revenue to almost 30% just because of that platform. You may have seen right after the shutdown happened, some advertisements encouraging you to order takeout. Those were actually on a national basis all put up by DoorDash, and there was just a tiny little DoorDash logo at the end of it. So you might have thought it was the National Restaurant Association that did it. It was very helpful in getting people thinking about restaurants and supporting restaurants. So thus far from what we've seen, they've ramped up extremely quickly and been a great partner to the restaurant industry and helping to be able to get food to people. A lot of people are afraid to go out and do takeout or to do even curbside. So the delivery service has been critical to them.
Yeah, I think the other thing is all of them immediately integrated contactless delivery. You know, probably within 24 hours, we had that as an option to be able to offer people. So they've been doing really well. And Grubhub's running a national TV campaign right now. In about 5 seconds in, Primanti Bros is featured in it, which was a real surprise to us. So,
oh, that's great.
featuring
So you see, it's all about tech. Tech has enabled all of this to happen. And so we're pretty proud, and we know that all of you matter. You all matter to actually the tech ecosystem across, Pittsburgh and Southwestern Pennsylvania, because it's been such a complementary relationship. So I want to jump to John real quick, and then Jonathan can see if there's some questions or statements out there.
Surely.
Yesterday, the governor announced, John, that May 6th is his target date to start a reopening, a staging of the economy. So particularly as it relates to tourism and lodging and your members, how do you see the future unfolding?
Well, the governor has been very conservative in his handling of the crisis in working with the health professionals to ensure the safety of the public. And we expect the same thing will happen in the reopening. And you've kind of seen that indication from him. I did have a chat with his chief of staff last week, and we talked about the staging of reopening. And in my opinion, and this is my opinion, that it will be staged based on the gating system that the administration has rolled out. I think that most states are going to follow that. That President Trump's administration rolled out because they would be probably unwise not to follow the CDC recommendations and those that come out of the task force of the administration. And so the gating requirements will probably be how we'll reopen, and we'll reopen based on, in my opinion, counties, kind of the reverse of how the shelter-at-place orders were put into place. The restaurant industry was essentially shut down all at once, and created an essential business only for takeout and delivery. But the counties, as you recall, were shut down in an order based on the cases that were being discovered there. So I think the reopening will be the same. And I think there will be standards, there will be physical distancing standards, and many other standards that will be put in place, like the ones that the governor put in place this weekend with face masks for employees and customers. So I think it's going to be, as far as the actual orders go, I think it's going to be gradual and going to be relatively slow and careful. As far as the industry coming back, it's going to be a long recovery cycle. One of the things that we talked about was how surprised was I by this, or how surprised were Adam and I about this. When this first hit, I said, well, I've been in the business about 50 years, hard to believe looking at me, but and I was running hotels, 160 hotels around the country when we had the tragedy of September 11th. And when this first hit, I said, wow, this is the only thing I can think of that's anything like this was then. And then as time progressed, I realized there's nothing like this. There's never been anything like this. No one's ever been through anything like this. So how we come back from it, I don't know. The hotel industry took 18 to 24 months to recover from the tragedy of September 11th. You may remember, if you were flying back then, you didn't fly for 6 weeks, 2 months. Many companies didn't have people fly for the rest of the year because they were concerned about putting them on airplanes. It's going to be the same thing now. And then, so there will be distancing standards in place, which will make it difficult for restaurants because they'll be operating at way less than 100% capacity. And then secondly, it's quite possible consumers are going to be skittish about coming out and being in a place with a lot of people because the virus does not have a vaccine yet, and that's going to be what's critical. We've worked with a task force within the PRLA called the Restaurant Reopening Task Force, which, by the way, Mike Mitchum serves on, Adam, and just released to the governor. It hasn't been released publicly, what we're calling the Pennsylvania Restaurant Promise, which is a combination of commitments on the part of those restaurants that join the promise, and also guidance to consumers, what we expect from consumers about those folks that come into the restaurants, so that we can do a few things. One, help the industry understand how to reopen, and number two, assure the public, the general public, that these restaurants are doing everything they can to be safe and sensible in the service to the guests. So that's going to be really important for restaurants. Hotels have an additional duty or additional challenge in that about 50% of the travel into hotels is corporate nationwide. That means those are businesses that are coming in for group meetings, corporate travel, and things like this. My anticipation is that companies are going to suspend corporate travel a lot longer than they did after 9/11 because of the fact they're concerned about the liability of making people travel, putting them on a plane, and having them catch the virus. And so consequently, the hotels that are going to begin to come back sooner are those that have mostly transient business, the vacationers, staycations, and things like that. The nice part about Pennsylvania is we're in a great location for people to come that need to get away, that are afraid to get on a plane because there are such big population centers so nearby. So I'm hoping that those hotels will be able to get back in a much quicker fashion. And the other challenge, then I'll shut up, is that the destination marketing organizations, we have 50 of those in Pennsylvania, like Visit Pittsburgh, and they are supported almost exclusively by the hotel tax that's generated in the county that they're located in. Right. There's no hotel tax being collected right now. So, and those destination marketing organizations are essential to helping the industry get back afterwards through the marketing they do to bring people into the areas. So there's a number of challenges that are hard to see how we're going to overcome. But the good news is we're a resilient people, we're a resilient industry. There's a lot of positive work going on out there. Every time I talk to a restaurant or hotel operator, every day they're more positive about coming back. So I'm hoping that we'll turn the corner and that we'll look back on this someday as a not so fond memory, but it's not going to be quick.
So let me ask one question, then I'm going to pass the baton to Jonathan real quick to capture some of the questions out here. And this is directed towards Adam, and this is just meant to be helpful in general to Primanti's and any other restaurant. Is it helpful for people to buy gift cards and to buy, coupons now, or, to buy gifts to all these restaurants, yours included?
Yeah, I mean, I think the benefit to buying gift cards right now is cash flow. When you sell a gift card, yes, you have the liability, but you do put cash in the bank. And I think that's what every restaurant, especially smaller independents, are looking for. It's like, how do I get cash to make it another week, make it another month?
Right. Okay.
So yeah, there are, and we'll be launching very soon an electronic gift card system so that our fans can buy gift cards from their home. And we're going to offer a great deal for that because, once again, same thing. We want to give people incentives to come in, but we also want to put some more cash in the bank to just get, a little bit longer down the road.
Okay. So it matters, and we should be doing it, and it has an impact. So let's ask some questions. Jonathan, there's been a bunch of questions here that I'd like to get out both to John and to Adam.
We're going to run out of time, so we'll do the best we can here to tee these suckers up. So first and foremost, as restaurants return back to business, it seems like obviously there's going to be less people coming in. Do we need to change some things around liquor laws and so forth? Because that's a major profit center and there won't be as much of that going on.
That's a great question. And many states, if not most states around us, have relaxed liquor laws. They've allowed, in many cases, restaurants to sell bottles of spirits. And as you know, in Pennsylvania, we essentially went dry for the last month because the state stores closed. And contrary to that, other states are actually freeing it up so that restaurants can sell spirits, they can sell wine to go, all these sort of things. Because of the nature of the PLCB, we have not been able to accomplish that in this state. There are some restaurants that already had wine to go permits, an example, or wine expanded permits where they could sell up to 4 bottles of wine. An example would be the Carlton right there in Pittsburgh. Kevin Joyce is a great wine seller and has done a lot of work in trying to keep supplying wine to people when they can't get it through their state stores. That said, moving forward to the reopening, Jonathan, one of the things we're going to be pushing for is to allow restaurants to expand their premises. We know they're going to have limited seating in their restaurants, maybe as little as 50% of their restaurants seated. So if they could expand into parking areas, or maybe rent tents and serve in those areas, that would allow them to be able to serve many more guests than they'll be able to. So we need two things. We need local, in most cases, those are local zoning ordinances. We've heard a lot from localities about the willingness to help restaurants with that and relaxing the zoning ordinances. And second, we need the PLCB to allow them to expand their last premise into the parking areas so that they could do table service there too. That's an example of something that would help. There is a bill right now in the House that does allow for some additional services that restaurants could provide, like selling spirits to go. Honestly, I don't have a lot of hope it's going to get passed for many reasons I won't get into now. But there has not been a lot of change, unfortunately, in relaxing the liquor laws to allow this thing to happen thus far.
So Adam, let's jump to you real quick. Any surprises, or have we in the community, in the tech community in particular, how can we be helpful? How can we rally around this? We've had a lot of good ideas. I know we're going to collate a whole bunch of restaurants and references and carry out PA. How can we be helpful? What do you think?
The first thing is come spend money at restaurants and help us get to the reopening stage. The second thing is, I think there's some new technology. I would say we are getting sales calls. The people that we're most interested in talking to are the people that are offering solutions for us now that are, make sense. And also we've had some really great partners step up with some free, 6 months free service that makes sense for us now. So, any of those solutions, we are actively looking for technology to help our fans be able to make a transaction easier, to be able to tell us when they're in that parking lot for picking up their food.
So Adam, we're going to take you up on that, because a ton of people solving problems right here in your backyard.
Yeah, these are things we thought about 6 weeks ago. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So Jonathan, are there any other questions, or you want to make any other statements about this really robust group chat that we had?
Yeah, I think one of the things we haven't addressed is being able to access personal protection equipment. Has that been a problem? I mean, obviously the workers have to be safe. They don't, just the idea of keeping everything sanitary and clean and up to par. Has there been issues there?
I can speak on a global sense. Yes, it's been a problem. And Adam, you can probably talk specifically, but we started about 14 days ago. We anticipated this could be an issue, particularly with cloth face masks and or cloth face coverings, I should say, which we could see the requirement would be coming. I mean, everyone could see that. But as we started trying to source them, the first thing we did is we went to the broadliners, the distributors that restaurants like Primanti buy from, and said, are you going to be able to supply these? And they said, no, but if you can find somebody that can get them for us, we'd love to hear. So the natural outlets that you would think to get them from didn't have them. So we started working with to try to find them. And we sourced about a dozen places that some were okay, some were not so okay as far as pricing goes. They'd never made them before, and they were coming in at a price that was higher than it should be. We finally found a uniform supplier that was willing to, that had switched their whole line over, was willing to allow not just PLA members, but all the restaurants through our PLA website to buy from them. They're going to be able to come up with enough supply, and it's a very good price. We don't get anything out of it. We just did the connection, and we should have a website up on Friday to help source the face masks, because it's not a one-time purchase. You have to keep buying them over and over again. That's an issue. Thermometers are going to be an issue. In the governor's order that came out on Friday night, that took effect Sunday required face coverings and thermometers. If you had had someone that had tested positive, you then started to have to test all your employees before they could come in the building. And there's not thermometers. So that's the second thing we're working on sourcing too. And then I believe face masks are not going to go away anytime soon. So there's probably going to be a long-term need for that, and hopefully we'll be able to help with that. Adam, I know you guys were all over this, and you probably found a source, but it hasn't been easy for most of particularly the independent restaurants.
Yeah, I would, what John said, same thing. Thermometers really difficult to find. We got some on Amazon. I think us and 3,000 other people were trying to get them at the same time. Face masks, very fortunate. 2 of our suppliers that were not in that business pivoted into that business and were able to get a supply. So, there's that. I think the biggest concern that we're thinking about now, and you're starting to see this, is the on the food supply chain side, concern around some of these plants that are having issues, and how does that ripple into the industry. So I think that's, that's the next thing that people haven't talked about. But you're starting to see meat factories having issues, and that could be devastating both for restaurants and grocery if there's some issues there.
To that point, Adam, in addition to the restaurant reopening task force, which is made up of restaurateurs and some hotel people from across the state, we're also working with the broadliners, the suppliers that supply the meats and canned goods and vegetable produce and all that to the restaurants, because they're just like there was this idea when the PPP was crafted in COVID-3, that we would turn on a switch and on June 30th and everything would be back. There is probably a thought on the part of restaurants that when they want to reopen, they're just going to place an order and get the food, and that's not going to be able to happen. And so we have a similar task force with broadliners so that we can suppliers, so that we can advise restaurants and get them prepared for when they're going to try to reopen. Obviously, chains that have strong relationships like Primanti's will have a better time of it, but even you've already heard, Adam, you're not going to be able to get the things you want to get. You've probably trimmed your menu back already during the takeout phase, partially because of that. Many restaurants have. So we want to make sure that they understand it's not going to be like turning on a switch. They're going to have to slowly the menus back up again.
Mm-hmm. Well, it is past 12:30. We've had a great conversation. Obviously, everyone's interested in this. We care about it. We want you to do well. You matter to all the work that we're doing here. So, Jonathan, is there anything else that we want to wrap up on before I remind everyone about who we have ahead? And there's ways to reach these people as well. We'll make sure that that's available in case everyone wants to do a direct outreach.
I have a very important question for you, Audrey.
Oh.
What's your favorite Primanti sandwich?
Oh my gosh, let me tell you right now, my mouth is salivating. I love tuna covered with coleslaw, covered with French fries on white bread, covered with mustard.
Now I'm hungry. Dang.
Okay.
That's some great restaurants.
I can't thank you both enough. We are here, just not today. We're here every day for the both of you. And everyone here that gave all their restaurants and all the information, we're going to collate that. We'll put it out on our site with this particular interview because we record them all. So my hat's off to everyone who is working on this problem and to all the restaurants and servers and people who actually deliver to all of us for putting their own lives at risk and trying to move the economy forward. Tomorrow we have State Representatives Austin Davis and Jake Wheatley. Thursday we have the EVP and COO of UPMC. Friday we have a packed day with Dr. Levine from the state, and we have Dennis Davin from DCED, the Economic Development, and Senator Casey. So we're busy trying to provide relevant info and make sure that all of us are part of the community and feel that way while we're home. So signing off, Audrey Rousseau.
Nice job.
Thank you.
You bet. Glad to be here. Thanks for hosting this. This is terrific.
Nice job. Yeah.
And Adam, great to see you.
Great to see you guys too. Stay safe.
Good seeing you, Adam. Thanks, guys.
Talk to you soon.
Appreciate your time.
Okay, you bet.